Hey everyone, welcome back to Melody's 15 Years. Today we are talking about living with uncertainty and scanxiety. Now, I know this is a big topic for ocular melanoma patients,
Mhm.
so let's jump in. Where do you want to start?
I think the uncertainty leads into this anxiety. I think living with uncertainty is a really tough one because most most people when they go to the doctor they're told bad news. There's a few physicians out there who are still saying, "Oh, don't worry about it. You know, it'll be fine." But I think even those patients who see those doctors don't really feel fine. But then there's another set of doctors that are like, oh, you got 2 to 5 years, and oh, there's no cure if you metastasize. And it leaves patients in this limbo land. I mean, I know I was in limbo for 5 years. And when you're living every 3 to 6 months between scans is really hard. And you're constantly waiting for the other shoe to drop. You're constantly thinking, I have an expiration date. When before you were diagnosed with ocular melanoma, you didn't even think about your expiration date. You know, you think, oh, I'm going to live a long life. I'm going to retire, have grandkids. I'm just, I'm going to die when I'm old. And then you get this diagnosis, and all of a sudden, death becomes more of a reality. And it's always kind of lurking there. And I know I have said this before that um, when you have ocular melanoma, it's different than other cancers. And I have had other cancers, so this is why I can say that. When I had kidney cancer, I didn't wake up every morning saying, oh, I have kidney cancer. But I wake up every morning now and I can't see out of one eye. I know I have ocular melanoma. I know where things can go. I know that at any moment, even though I am 15 years out, I could get metastatic disease because you don't have that 5 years. If I could just make it to 5 years, I'm clear. When I had kidney cancer, I knew I just needed to make it to 5 years. If I could get to 5 years, I'd be good. And I made it to 5 years on that, and I was good. And the doctor said, "See you later, bye." And I no longer followed for kidney cancer, which is it was a good relief. But at the same time, I don't have that with ocular melanoma. I don't have that finality. It's just lingers and goes on and on and on. And that's the uncertainty thing, is because you know that you're never safe. And you might not think about it every day, but you think about it often enough. And it usually peaks around scan time. Because, you can kind of put it in the back of your mind, but then here comes scan time, and then you're thinking, okay, I got to start getting ready for my scan, and then the scanxiety comes in, and that's an anxiety over a scan. And it's hard because a lot of people fear MRIs. They don't like them. They need medication to get through the scan. And I remember I was one of those, and I had this really great technician. She says, don't worry about it. We're not scanning your head. We'll put you in feet first. And when she started putting me in feet first backwards, I'm like, oh, hey, I can do this. And honestly, I am not a fearful person. I ride roller coasters. Well, I used to ride roller coasters before I got old. But I drive whenever I want. I drive at night. I travel cross country by myself. I went to Europe by myself. I'm not a fearful person. But that MRI machine, I don't like it. And it's fearful because I don't like having my head in it. And the very first MRI, I can still remember my very first MRI. It took me about 4 hours to be able to get my head in. When they do a head MRI, it's different than doing a body MRI. You get like a, it's not a mask, but it's like a shield, and they bolt it to the table, and you can't move. And that is a fear of mine. I don't like being tied down or restrained, and I felt very tied down and restrained. They tried twice with nothing. They called the doctor. The doctor gave me a prescription for some Valium. And it was a little bit better, but I couldn't make it all the way through. So then they tried again. Let me come out, let me rest, put me back in. Couldn't do it. Called the doctor. The doctor gave me a little bit better Valium to where I was drowsy. But you can't be asleep because you got to breathe. And you got to do things. You got to follow their instructions. So you can't be totally knocked out. So I had to be pretty heavily sedated to get my head into that machine. And I think people don't understand that side of it either. You think, oh, it's an MRI, just go in and have an MRI. No. When your head has to go in that tube, a lot of us have a fear of that. And I don't like the tube. I don't like MRIs. I am blessed now. I don't even have to have one every year anymore. I have a doctor who does an ultrasound, chest x-ray, and I'm good to go. But for years, I had to have those MRIs. 3 years, it was every 3 months. Then 2 years, it was every 6 months. And then for 5 years, it was once a year. And then there was a time during COVID, I didn't even get one. I skipped it because I couldn't, you could only get an MRI if you had a reason to have an MRI, and a follow-up was not a reason. So if people are fearful or anxious to start with, an MRI is going to be more intimidating. CT scans can be intimidating. You're put in a very vulnerable position. It's hard to admit, I think, to some people that they're afraid of it, and then they're made fun of by a lot of people in the outside community, that not our community. We know what it's like. But I've been made fun of. Oh, come on, it's just an MRI. What are you afraid of? It's like, you go in there. You go in there every 3 months, and you tell me that it's not triggering. And it is. I had to have an MRI of my foot recently. And I was triggered. It was my foot. But I had to sit on that table, and they had to move me so close to that tube, and it was triggering because I've been triggered. I've got this anxiety now towards it, and I think people don't understand that it's a long-lasting kind of a thing. It's not something you can just go have an MRI.
Yeah, I think maybe a little bit of like a PTSD.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so.
Yeah. And then, I think we as humans have a natural head in the sand. If I don't look, it's fine. If I don't, but if I do look, then it's going to be bad. So if I don't look, then I'm fine. What do you think about that?
I agree. There's a lot of people who keep their head in the sand because the reality is too hard. I put my head in the sand a lot. I'm really, really good at telling other people what to do, but I'm not really good at following my own advice. And I'm 15 years later, I'm still putting my head in the sand. I go talk to my doctor. At 5 years, I said, I can't do this every 6 months anymore. Can we move it to every year? And he's like, yeah. Then at 10 years, I'm like, I'm so done with MRIs. Even once a year, it was too much. It's too much. It can be suffocating. And you, even though it might not be something you live with every day, as it approaches, the anxiety builds. So putting your head in the sand, I think, is a normal reaction.
That makes sense.
Yeah. You can't live like that every day.
Right. But that's your natural urge.
Mm-hmm.
And so how do you get past that? Or how did you get past it?
I have to do a lot of self-talk. We have some videos on our website from Ann Osborne, and she gave us really good coping and meditation skills. And I found what works for me is tapping. So I tap my legs, and I tap my forehead, and I tap my cheeks, and that kind of calms me down. And then when I don't let them put the washcloth over my eyes because that doesn't work for me. Some people, when they go in the MRI, putting a washcloth or a towel over their eyes helps them. That freaks me out. So I think you got to find what works for you. But you have to find something to help you get over the hump of the anxiety, and find something to do before the scan as the anxiety starts building. Find something that you like to do. One of the things that I did when I was getting a lot of scans is, being from California, I love Jamba Juice. And in Raleigh, there's not a lot of Jamba Juice. It's just not around. It especially wasn't around then. But I found one close to Duke campus. And so every time I would have an MRI, that was my go-to. I would drive to Duke, and I would go to the Jamba Juice, and I would get myself a Jamba Juice. So every scan, that was kind of my special. And I think that's a good thing, is to give. It's kind of a reward. I made it through. It's kind of give yourself something pleasurable at the end to look forward to.
Yeah, I think that's That's a great way to look at it. And I also always like to treat myself when I have to do something I don't want to do. So I think this is a wonderful idea. Like if I have like a long day of like meetings or being around people or something where I just feel kind of overwhelmed, I feel like I need a treat. Like I need to stop and get like a yummy latte, not a coffee at home or like a cookie or something. So, and it doesn't
Well,
have to be a food treat. It could be, you maybe you go get your nails done, or I mean, it could be going to the store and buying a new shirt. Anything that is a special. I have to do this, but at least I get this out of it.
yeah. And it can be anything. It can be taking a walk in your favorite park. It can be to go, whatever. Going and seeing a friend. You find whatever that is. It could be helpful for you to get a sense of satisfaction at the end. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Because you've got to look at, I did it. I'm over. It's behind me. I can move on. So give yourself something to look forward to that kind of balances the anxiety. And well, we just did this when we were in DC for Rare Disease Day. What did we do at dinner? We had dessert because we never have dessert, but we had dessert because we needed a reward. And I'm not saying reward yourself with food because that's a dangerous slippery slope for a lot of people, but that's what worked for us. It was like, ooh, let's go have dinner and we'll get a yummy dessert and we'll go to bed with nice full stomachs and we'll feel proud of what we've done. But it just gives you that time to have the anxiety go away and relieve the stress of the day or the stress of the whatever you had done. And it can be the same thing for doctor's appointments. I used to do the same thing when I'd go to the doctor, because there's once you have your scan, that's one anxious moment. But from then, now you got to go see the doctor, and you got to be like, okay, you're sitting in the doctor's room, and I have a wonderful doctor. I've got a great personality. So I'm sitting in the waiting room, and he walks in, and he throws the door open, and he has a piece of paper, and he throws it at me. Yeah, you're good. And then we start talking about other things, and he's like, well, I guess I should examine you. And we have this really nice relationship now. So I know that when he comes in and he's got a good look on his face and he throws the paper at me, that I know I'm good. But we've developed that kind of a rapport. And I think with your doctor, you'll develop something to know when they walk in the door, you're going to know if it's good or not. And as soon as it's good, everything's good. And you're back and you're back to you. But it's very stressful. It could be up to 2 or 3 weeks for some people from scan to doctor visit, or heaven forbid if they have to learn it, bad news on their my chart. I'm lucky where I go get an MRI. It doesn't even hit my chart until after I've seen the doctor because the doctor has to release it. So I get my results the same day. So I don't have to wait. So I'm blessed there that I have a hospital system that is quick. But a lot of people have to wait weeks to find out the results. And I can't even imagine that. I have a hard time waiting a couple hours. I can't imagine having to wait 2 weeks for somebody to tell me if my scan is good or not. It's got to be nerve-wracking.
So you have nothing but good things to say about your doctor, would you say?
Oh, I love my doctor, yeah.
You love him. Do you want to tell people who he is if they're curious?
I go to University of North Carolina and I see Dr. Moskos. And Dr. Moskos is not a name that anybody would know because he's not famous for uveal melanoma, but he's a wonderful melanoma oncologist, and we have an agreement that if I ever was to metastasize, that he would work with one of the other doctors and we would come up with a plan. But we have a good relationship and we've seen each other for many years, and it works for me.
That's great. I think that's so important to hit on what works for you. And, don't feel pressured that you have to go to Philly or you have to go here or you have to see, you know, XYZ. Like, if you like them, that's great.
Yes, exactly. It's more important to have a good relationship with your doctor than what your doctor knows in the beginning. I mean, once you metastasize, it's a whole different story. But I myself am not the person that could travel just to go see a doctor for a checkup and an MRI. I have to go 2 hours as it is. I could not imagine having to make an all-day trek in a plane just to go see a doctor. So I like my doctor. He's solid. He's good. He has a great personality, and we get along well. And I can ask him anything, and he will tell me anything I need to know. So I think, for the most part, I feel safe with him. Maybe that's a good thing to say. I feel safe with him. I feel that I'm going to be taken care of, and that they know what to look for. And if anything ever shows up, that he's going to catch it, and we're going to work on it together and go to a place for better treatment.
Yeah, that's very important. So when you go to have your scan, you get your Jamba Juice, you've had your scan, you wait your couple weeks, you go back to your appointment, maybe get another Jamba Juice, get your results, and then do you after that, after you get the good results, how long of a peaceful period do you have until the Scanxiety comes back in? Is it not until your next appointment, or is it like, does it wear off after a couple weeks?
I think most people after the appointment, well, after the scan is over, the Scanxiety kind of goes, because it's one piece of the puzzle that's out of the way. I think the ongoing stressors of the diagnosis, the uncertainty lingers. It's going to linger until you get the A-OK all clear from your doctor, or from your MyChart or Epic or whatever you have. Once you get the all clear, then you kind of get the letdown. And okay, I'm good. And then it starts creeping back up closer to the next scan. And it depends on where people are. Like, when you're doing every 3 months, you don't get 3 months of peacefulness, because you have your MRI, and then about 2 weeks before the scan, or some people it's a month before the scan, it starts creeping back in, and you start thinking, oh God, I got to get ready for my scan. And then I remember I was really, really busy one year, and I all of a sudden my scan was there. It's like, oh crap, I got to go in and have my scan tomorrow, and that was great, because I was so busy I didn't have time to think about it. But there were times when when I was going back and forth from your house to North Carolina, way back in 2000, I guess 13, 14, 12, 13, maybe. Um, I would have to drive from California to North Carolina, and I had to go have my scans. And that's a long time to be in the car, driving and thinking about what I was heading to, and the uncertainty that I was going to get, because this was still within my 5 years. So I'm still thinking any moment I'm going to get the bad news. I can remember walking into the cancer center where I was going to have my MRI, and I remember thinking, I have a bad feeling. I think this is going to be the year, the scan, that I'm going to have mets. And I remember having this horrible, heavy feeling, knowing something inside me just said, this could be bad. Hold on, this could be bad. And of course, it was clear. And I left like, well, that was silly. You worried for nothing. But you can't help it. It's there. It's in the back of your mind. And that is one of the downsides about being in the group, is you see the people that get the bad news, and then it comes into your head, and maybe that's what made me think that way. Maybe there was a lot of people that had bad news while I was getting a scan. So there's also a lot of extra factors in your Scanxiety. If you're around in the group and there's a lot of people that are getting bad news, and you're going up for a scan, of course it's going to be even harder.
Yeah, I think that's a great point.
The groups are like a double-edged sword. They're great, they're wonderful, full of support, but they're also sad. We mourn when they have bad news. We mourn when somebody passes. We feel it like they do.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
Yeah, and knowing that you have the same condition, ocular melanoma as a whole, then it questions your own mortality. Am I next? Am I going to be the one?
yep. Is this going to be the scan when it's all going to fall apart? And
Right.
you can't help but think that, because it could be the scan where it just all falls apart.
And I think that that's human nature in sort of our daily lives anyway. I mean, not to be morbid, but I've had the thought before when I go to leave the house and I'm just having a weird day and I think, oh God, is this am I going to die in a car accident? Is this like the day that everything changes? I think we have all had those weird thoughts that just kind of pop in your head and you're like, I don't know why I thought that, but they just come. But when you have something like ocular melanoma where it's like a legitimate reason to worry about this, then that thing that's already human nature is just exacerbated.
I agree. I agree, but um, I also think that when you deal in the cancer world, you start thinking about your mortality a lot more than you probably ever did.
Yeah, I can imagine. Hmm.
Yeah, I never thought about it, never once. I can still remember getting kidney cancer diagnosed at 45, and when they told me, oh, you're fine, you're going to be fine. We caught it early, you've got clean margins, you're going to be fine. Just got to have a scan once a year for 5 years. And I was having scans once a year for 5 years, until, well, year four, when I had ocular melanoma. But the scans were different. They were so different. I was getting MRIs for my kidney cancer, but it was different. And I can't explain how come it was different, but it's just different. The one cancer to this cancer, I think I think with the kidney cancer, every scan brought me closer to 5 years. And I knew after 5 years I was good. But this cancer just brings me closer to every scan could be the scan where it shows.
Is ocular melanoma a more aggressive cancer than your kidney cancer was?
Yes. Well, at my stage, if you
Mhm.
have extended kidney cancer, it's very aggressive, probably even worse than ocular melanoma in the beginning. And they also have problems with drugs working on it. And but when it's found in an early stage, then no, it's not that aggressive. It doesn't get aggressive until it's metastasized somewhere. It's kind of like ocular melanoma. When you have it in your eye, it's not that aggressive. You're fine. But when it metastasizes, then the game changes. Um, but I think because I was told early on that I was high risk, that I wasn't told, oh no, you're going to be fine. Your genetics are low. I didn't have genetic testing, so I don't know. So I think it's more of just the heaviness of a lifetime diagnosis as a 5 year diagnosis.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think this is a good way to illustrate people not understanding unless they have ocular melanoma, because we talked before about people who don't have cancer don't understand. They think you look fine, so you should be fine, and your eyes fine, so you should be fine. But even someone with a different cancer, I mean, you with two different cancers felt completely different. So if you have a friend who says, oh yeah, I had breast cancer or I had this cancer, I totally get it, and you feel like they don't, that's okay. And I think that just solidifies why finding your community and other OM patients is so important.
Well, it is because it is completely different, and people without ocular melanoma don't even understand. We talked about my ex-husband calling me and saying, "Hey, I now I know what it feels like to be diagnosed with cancer because now I have cancer." But even his cancer compared to my cancer are two different cancers. He has a chronic hairy cell leukemia. It's chronic, um, but he's probably not going to die from it. And so when you have a cancer where 50% of the population could die, there's a heaviness there that just doesn't ever really leave you, I think. I mean, 15 years later, it still sits there. I still think sometimes,
Right.
I'm only being checked every 2 years now. I don't know.
So when you're going through the Scanxiety and you feel like people maybe don't understand and it just is starting to feel like it's a lot, it's maybe too much, what can you do?
Therapy, 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 therapy. I can't say enough. If you can find a cancer therapist through your cancer institution, huge help. If you can find a trauma therapist, huge help. Uh, People don't think about cancer being a trauma, but it is a trauma. The diagnosis, there's been some studies that receiving a cancer diagnosis is like having a major trauma to you, like a horrible car accident or a horrible. I'm not going to say that it's not a horrible illness, but I mean a horrible illness like maybe you were in a coma or where you were hospitalized for a long time. It can be just as traumatic as witnessing even a murder, because your brain works in different ways, and trauma can be very difficult to overcome on your own. And if none of those will work for you, find a therapist that you like. I did not use a trauma therapist. I used just a regular counselor, and she was great. And she understood, and she was knowledgeable enough to give me tools. I researched. I listened to Anne a lot in her webinars. Her and I talked a lot, and she kept trying to tell me, don't give up on meditating. You and I've had that conversation. I have a hard time meditating. I can't shut my brain off, and I just keep trying. And even if you're not what you even think is 100% successful, what is successful when it comes to trauma and overcoming it. But you just keep working at it, you'll get there, even if you're doing little tiny pieces of it. But I think therapy is a huge piece of the puzzle. And I wish that more doctors would send patients to a medical oncologist and to a therapist, because this is a heavy cancer to deal with, and it's unfortunate. But my having therapy helped me. It helped me deal with the Scanxiety. It helped me deal with the uncertainty. It helped me live with the day-to-day unknowns. She's the one who got me to stop thinking that I'm terminal. She's like, "You're not terminal. You're not dying tomorrow. Stop saying that to yourself, because the more negative information that you feed back to yourself, the more that becomes a reality. And then it becomes part of your identity. And that's what had happened to me. I had let it become part of my identity. And that was a bad thing. It helped me with my marital problems. We did not get divorced right away. It took us a long time to get divorced. We tried many times to get back together. We kept trying, thinking we could fix it. And so she helped me with that. So I mean, there was a lot of things that was helped. Relationships were kind of a big thing. You know?
Yeah.
So therapy is huge.
Absolutely. And because you mentioned meditation, I just want to say if anyone is listening and saying, I can't do it either, I used to say that too. I used to say, there's no way I can just sit and think about nothing. But then I realized when you actually meditate, you're not thinking about nothing. You're not because I had this idea that it was like you're just supposed to sit there and not think and clear your mind and have this like clear mind, which is impossible. And that's actually not what it is. Thank goodness. So, if I
Some
cannot.
people can
No,
do
and that's
that.
not for
I
me either.
can't.
But if you're thinking, oh, I could never just sit there, you don't have to do that. If you go on your phone and look at podcasts or, iPad, whatever you have, go to your podcast app, and there are free meditation podcasts where they're guided. So all you do is listen to it and it will walk you through, you're walking through a forest and there's a beam of light and there's a pond and a bunny and you just think it. And some people, a small percentage of people can't visualize when they close their eyes. And if that's you and you're saying, "Well, I can't do that either." That's okay. You don't have to picture it like a picture. You can just think the words, but it's just the point of being mindful and it puts your focus on this one thing. And then when you get used to it, you can do it without the guided ones. You can just do it yourself. But in the beginning, do a guided one. And it's like story time when you're a little kid. Someone's telling you a story and you're just following along. It's easy, and there are so many studies about the health benefits. You can look them up because I can't remember numbers, so I can't tell you what they are. But it's like a very small amount of time meditating completely transforms things in your brain, and it's so good for you. So I do highly encourage that. If you're like, oh, there's so many things and I can't do all of them, if you could just pick one, like try that. It's easy. You can do it in your bed or on
Yeah.
your couch.
Yeah, and there's you can yoga do. There's lots. You can do chair yoga. You don't have
Yeah.
to do like traditional yoga. That's helpful. Some kind of an exercise program. Going out walking.
Mm-hmm.
Walking is my therapy. Um, so that's a, you just gotta be careful. Please don't fall. That's a bad thing. No. Um, but walk in a safe place, and do something that brings you peace, that you can stop thinking about all the bad things. But one of the things too is that use your cancer center. Most of us, not all of us, but most of us go to an oncologist at a cancer center. They have great resources. And their resources are not all for ocular melanoma, but they have cancer patient resources. Use them. They're great. They have support groups. They have classes. They have handouts. They have all kinds of stuff. You don't know what's going to work for you until you find it. So keep looking. Because we can get into that negativity. I can't do yoga. I can't do meditation. I can't stand a therapist. I don't like to go for a walk. There's something out there
And don't
that you can
don't
do.
focus on the negative. I can't, I won't, I don't. Focus on the positive. What can
Yeah.
you do? What do you like? And as far as therapists, you have your regular therapists, your trauma therapists, like you were talking about, cancer therapists. You also can go other directions. You could go to a therapist at your church. You could do a psychotherapist, a hypnotherapist. There is something for
Yes,
everyone.
yes.
I'm pretty sure.
Yes. Well, and that's the thing. I think that everybody needs to find what works for them. So, I think, I know in our patient meetings we've always had people that, harp on meditation and yoga. And then it's like, okay, there's got to be something else besides meditation and yoga. But even we had a chiropractor that did a couple of did a patient meeting and a few podcasts with us. It was awesome. But he was also into integrative medicine. But he would talk about just things that you could do at home to make yourself feel better through stretching, through just movement, some kind of movement. So find your thing. Find your thing, because there is a thing that's going to help you relax and help you
Yeah.
process.
And gardening, art, painting, like it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Anything.
I'm a putter. I like to putter in my yard. There's nothing makes me happier where I can just put on some music and I just go putter in my yard and I don't think about things. I just think about whatever I'm doing, weeding, pruning a plant, and that's kind of my happy place. And I like to just putter. I don't want to have really even an agenda. I don't want to have a to-do list. I just want to
That
go
sounds
putter.
terrible to me. So, like we said, whatever works for you. That's the last thing I want to do. Let's go
Well,
pull weeds. No, thank you.
yeah, no. Yeah. Well, and journaling is also, if you don't want to go talk to somebody, journal. Journal is therapeutic. It doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
I can't journal. No, journaling and I do not get along. I don't.
Yeah.
Nope. I'm in the middle of writing and then my brain goes on. I've got a brain like a pinball machine, so it's and I can't keep one thought. And then I'm like, and I'll write 2 pages and I never go
My
back to
brain
it.
goes faster than my hand is my problem. I can't write that fast, and then I end up
Yep.
just doing a squiggle because I'm like I'm on to the next sentence.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe
My brain
like
goes
a voice
faster than my mouth
recorder,
too. So
like
I.
a
Yeah.
digital journal. You could talk.
You can do that. You can. Some people also do video journals where they video themselves. So, but you got to find what works for you. Danae, her thing is fantasy books. That's where
Yeah, a
she goes
different
and gets
world.
lost. And it's not my thing. Although I do love Bridgerton, I did get lost in that. That was
Yeah,
great. Yeah. But so there's
right.
things. You just got to find your
Absolutely.
thing. Don't stop till you find it. And don't. I have to say this. Don't make the biggest mistake of trying to force yourself into something that doesn't fit you. If you are not a yoga meditator, and you've truly tried, and it is not for you, don't do it. Do something that fits for you. My friend Jaja, her thing is she takes gourds and she makes lanterns out of them. That's her thing. She likes to get in there with her tools and drill on gourds, and I'm thinking, oh my god, that sounds horrible. Absolutely no.
And she's a
But for her,
patient.
it's her thing. So she's a patient. Yeah, Jaja. She's a patient. And we made friends. We became friends because of the sport groups, and we've become very good friends. And but that's her thing. She's crafty. She needs to do stuff with her hands, and I am not a crafter. So just because your friend it works for them doesn't mean it's going to work for you. But find something. There is something out there. Some people knit. Some people crochet. I don't do that either.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's
Yeah.
very important.
Mm-hmm. But I do think therapy helps everybody. If you can just
Yeah.
find the
And
person
if
that you
you
click with.
don't,
You might take you a
yeah,
couple
and if you
tries.
don't love the person you're with, if it just doesn't feel right, don't stay because you feel guilty. Like it's okay to find somebody else. Right.
True. Same thing goes for doctors. If you're not jiving with your doctor, find another one. You don't need more stress when it comes to scanxiety or the fear of a scan result or fear of going to the doctor. You need to find somebody that you mesh with. Like I go to Dr. Moscos, we mesh. I know that he can throw a piece of paper at me. He knows he can throw a piece of paper at me. How did we know? One day he walked in the door and threw a piece of paper at me. And I guess he just knew enough of me that I would think that would be funny. But so you find your doctor that works. I'm sure there's a lot of people that if their doctor threw a piece of paper at them, they would be horrified. But it works. It
Yeah.
works for
Lighten the
me.
mood.
you know?
Yeah,
Yeah, right. Exactly.
absolutely.
So find your jam. Find what works for you because there's something that does. But don't let scanxiety and fear trap you because that's I've been there. Terrible, terrible feeling. I let it trap me for 5 years, and I said no more. I'm not going to do it anymore. And I moved my scan schedule to where I thought I could handle it, and I'm always adjusting it, and I'm okay with it.
And that's part of being your own advocate. You told your doctor what worked
Exactly.
for you, and he agreed with it, and you made the decision together.
Yes. And if he would have said, I don't feel comfortable with that, I would have rethought it. But because he said, I'm comfortable with that, then I was comfortable with that. And now we have a plan and a
Yeah, because you're a
relationship, and
team.
all's
At the
good.
end of the day, your team.
And you should have a team. You should have a team, a medical and well, a medical team, because even though it's a therapist, it's
Mm-hmm.
mental health, it's still medical. You should have a team that works together. You should, your ocular oncologist, your medical oncologist, the therapist, any integrative medicine that you're doing, anything that you're doing, you should have a team, and you should feel good
Yeah.
in your team. And that's one thing I have to say about Danae is she has worked very hard to have a good team, and her oncologist, ocular oncologist, integrative doctor, and everybody works together, and they're all on board, and they all are like, yeah, this is good, yeah, keep going. And she's got a team, and her team always knows what's going on. And I think more of us need to have that team, so that we don't feel not supported, because it's an isolating, unsupportive disease anyway. So get a team where you feel like they've got your back.
Absolutely. Very important.
Yeah,
All right. Anything else you want to cover in this
I
episode? All right.
don't think so.
Okay.
It's a good place to leave.
And speaking of having a team, thank you for being here and watching and being on our team. So, we're going to leave you here, but check out our website, acureinsight.org. There's lots of resources there. If you need a team, if you need a doctor, a second opinion, you want to build your medical team, we have a physician finder on the website. You can check out the physician finder, check them out. And we have a new project coming soon where we're going to be spotlighting some OM doctors. So please subscribe to our channel if you haven't subscribed. It'll be on YouTube as well as Podbean, Apple, Spotify, anywhere else you get a podcast. And that's going to be a really exciting project.
Do you want to tell them
I
what your
can.
project is?
Yeah. Okay, well, I will.
I think you should.
So, we have a new project coming. We're going to start spotlighting the OM doctors because there are so many times patients are asking each other, have you heard of this doctor? Have you been to them? What are they like? So, we thought, we have doctors on the podcast all the time, but they're always talking about a topic. This time, let's bring them on and have them talk about themselves, their background, what they specialize in, what they do, where they are, what sets them apart, everything you would like to know about your doctor. So we're going to spotlight these doctors. They're each going to get their own episode, and we're going to call it What's Up, Doc? So we're very excited about it. And if you have questions that you would like us to ask in these episodes, go ahead and email them to me at megan@acureinsight.org. And we'll throw those in the episode. Make sure we ask your questions. We're going to poll the community and get a whole bunch of great questions for these doctors. And I've already emailed some, and they have been so excited about it. So just understand that they are in your corner. They want you to have this information, they want you to succeed, and they're really excited to bring these episodes to you. So we'll leave you there, but check out our website at cureinsight.org. Find your physician in the physician finder. Leave us some comments, like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys next time.